Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that honestly weighs heavily on the hearts of many across the UK, especially in our inner cities: the escalating crisis of knife and gun violence. It's a shadow hanging over so many communities, and we're here to ask, how can the church, how can Christians in the UK step up and really make a difference? I'm incredibly pleased to have with me today Emmanuel, a young college teacher born and raised right here in London, who sees the frontline impact of this issue every single day. Emmanuel, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Manasseh. It's a conversation that absolutely needs to happen. When you work with young people, particularly in certain boroughs across London, you don't just read about knife crime in the news, you see it. You see the fear, the bravado, the desperation, and sometimes, sadly, the irreversible consequences in the eyes of your students or their friends. It's not just statistics, it's lives, families, and futures being shattered.
That's such an important perspective, seeing it firsthand. For those of us who might not live in areas directly affected, it can feel distant, but it impacts us all. Before we get into solutions, from your vantage point, what do you think are some of the core reasons young people are drawn into this lifestyle or feel they have no other choice?
It's multifaceted, honestly. There's no single answer. A huge part of it is the feeling of disenfranchisement. Many young people, especially from deprived backgrounds, grow up feeling overlooked, like they don't have a voice or a viable path to success through conventional means. Education can feel like a dead end if they don't see opportunities afterwards. So, they look for identity, belonging, and respect elsewhere. Gangs offer that, a sense of family, protection, and unfortunately, a perceived route to quick money and status, even if it's incredibly dangerous and fleeting.
So it's a void that's been filled, often by something destructive. I can imagine the pressure, especially from peers. Is that a significant factor?
Absolutely, peer pressure is massive. It's not always about actively wanting to be involved. Sometimes it's about survival. If your friends are carrying knives, or if the postcode you live in is associated with a certain gang, you feel you have to protect yourself. The fear of being a victim can drive someone to become an aggressor, or at least to carry a weapon for perceived self-defense. And once you're in that cycle, it's incredibly difficult to break free. The road life can look glamorous from the outside, but it's brutal and unforgiving.
That's a really bleak picture, but a realistic one, I'm sure. This is where the church, with its message of hope, community, and transformation, feels like it has a critical role to play. But how specifically? What does that look like on the ground?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? For me, the church needs to be more than just a Sunday morning gathering. It needs to be a constant, visible, and tangible presence in these communities. One of the most immediate things is creating genuinely safe spaces. Many young people have nowhere to go after school that isn't the streets, or their sometimes chaotic homes. Churches often have halls, youth rooms, or even just open doors. Imagine a church building being a youth hub every weekday afternoon, not just for a couple of hours on a Friday.
I love that idea, becoming true community hubs. But what would happen in these hubs? Beyond just a roof over their heads, what kind of activities or support could be offered?
So much. Think about skills workshops. Many young people are incredibly creative but lack outlets. Could churches offer music production lessons, graphic design, basic coding, practical things that not only give them a skill, but also show them a different pathway to earning a living, a legitimate one? We're talking about things like mentorship too. Older, positive role models from the congregation who can actually spend time with these kids, listen to them, guide them, and be a consistent, stable influence that might be missing in their lives.
Mentorship is huge. I remember growing up, having someone older who believed in me, it made all the difference. And often these kids might not have that at home, or their parents are just so stretched trying to make ends meet. It's not a criticism, it's just the reality of their circumstances. What about the spiritual side? How does faith come into play in a practical, non preachy way that genuinely attracts and helps?
That's crucial. It can't feel forced. Faith is about transformation, about hope, about finding purpose. When young people come to a safe space, engage in an activity, and build trust with a mentor, the spiritual conversations will happen naturally. It's about demonstrating God's love through action first. Show them love, show them value, show them there's another way, and then the door opens to talk about the source of that love. It's about offering an alternative identity, not just I'm from this postcode or I'm part of this gang, but I am a child of God, I have potential, I have worth.
That's powerful. The idea of offering a new identity, a new narrative for their lives. What about the parents? You mentioned families earlier. Is there a role for the church in supporting families who are either struggling with children involved in violence or just trying to keep their kids safe?
Absolutely, parents are often caught in the crossfire or feeling just as helpless as their kids. Churches could offer parenting workshops, practical advice on communication, setting boundaries, understanding the pressures their children face, or even just support groups for parents of at-risk youth. Sometimes, parents just need to know they're not alone, that there are others facing similar challenges. And let's not forget the emotional and spiritual toll on parents who might have lost a child to violence or whose child is incarcerated. The church can be a place of healing and reconciliation for them.
That's a profound point, the healing aspect. It's not just about prevention, it's about repairing the damage that's already been done, both for victims and their families, and even for those who've perpetrated violence. There's a need for grace and rehabilitation. I wonder, Emmanuel, if you've seen examples, even small ones, of churches successfully engaging with this issue in London.
I have, thankfully. There are churches, often smaller, local congregations, who are just quietly getting on with it. I've seen a church in South London that started a football academy purely for local kids who were known to be on the fringes of gang activity. It wasn't about converting them, it was about giving them discipline, teamwork, a positive outlet, and adult role models who genuinely cared. Slowly, some of those kids started attending their youth group, not because they were forced, but because they felt safe and valued. Another church I know runs a breakfast club where young people can come in before school, get a warm meal, and just have a chat with a friendly adult. Simple acts, but they build relationships and trust.
Those examples really highlight that it doesn't always have to be a huge government funded initiative. It can start with consistent, loving actions within a local church. But what are the challenges for churches looking to get involved? I can imagine there might be a lack of resources or even a lack of understanding of the culture these young people are coming from.
You hit on it, resources are a big one. Funding for youth workers, for activities, for maintaining safe spaces. Many churches are already stretched thin. Another challenge is bridging the generational and cultural gap. Some churches might want to help, but they might not understand the language, the music, or the specific issues that resonate with young people today. They need to be willing to learn, to listen, and to empower younger members of their congregation who do understand to lead these initiatives.
That's so true. It's not about older members dictating, it's about collaborating and empowering, and maybe even training, bringing in people who can educate the church on youth culture, safeguarding, and effective outreach strategies.
Exactly, training is vital. It's not just about goodwill, it's about knowing how to engage safely and effectively. Also, there's the challenge of skepticism. Some young people, especially those who feel let down by society, might view the church with suspicion. They might see it as just another institution. The church needs to demonstrate its authenticity, its genuine care, and its commitment to sticking around even when things are tough. Consistency builds trust.
Consistency is key in any relationship, and especially so when dealing with vulnerable young people who might have experienced a lot of inconsistency in their lives. So, beyond the local church level, what about larger Christian organizations or even denominations? Do they have a role in coordinating efforts or providing resources?
Oh, definitely. Larger organizations can provide the infrastructure. They can offer training programs, pool resources, share best practices, and even advocate at a national level for policy changes that support these grassroots efforts. Imagine a national Christian youth charity that could help fund local church initiatives or provide a curriculum for youth mentoring programs. That kind of strategic oversight and resource allocation can amplify the impact exponentially.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about leveraging the collective strength of the church rather than individual congregations feeling like they have to tackle it all alone. And what about collaboration with secular organizations or even local councils and the police? Is that something the church should be pursuing?
Absolutely essential. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. There are incredible people and organizations already doing great work on the ground. The church should be at the table, offering its unique resources, its buildings, its volunteers, its moral compass, and working in tandem with local authorities, youth charities, schools, and even the police. Shared intelligence, shared resources, shared goals. That's how you make a systemic impact. It's not about being insular, It's about being a vital part of the wider community solution.
I can see how that collaborative approach would be much more effective. It's about demonstrating Christian love through action, but also through wise partnership. Emmanuel, we've talked about a lot of practical steps from youth hubs to mentorship, family support, and wider collaboration. For someone listening right now, perhaps a Christian individual or a church leader, what's one thing they can do this week to start making a difference?
I'd say start with listening. As an individual, listen to the young people in your life. Even if they're not directly affected, they know someone who is. Understand their world. As a church leader, listen to your community, identify the specific needs in your local area. Don't assume you know what's needed. Then, pray. Pray for wisdom, for guidance, for open doors. And then, just take one small tangible step. Could your church open its doors for an hour after school one day a week? Could you offer a cup of tea and a listening ear? It starts small, but consistent small steps lead to big change. The church has a unique spiritual authority and a moral imperative to be a light in the darkness. And now more than ever, our young people need that light.
Start with listening, then pray, then take one small tangible step. That's incredibly actionable advice, Emmanuel. It really highlights that every single one of us and every single church, no matter its size or resources, has a part to play in tackling this heartbreaking issue. We can't afford to be spectators. Emmanuel, thank you so much for sharing your invaluable insights, your passion, and your frontline perspective today. It's been an incredibly enlightening and challenging conversation, and I truly appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Manasseh. It's been a privilege to discuss this, and I really hope it encourages people to step up. Our young people deserve a chance at a future free from fear.
Indeed, they do. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for this vital discussion. Let's not just hear these words, but let's be moved to action. The church has the power to bring hope and healing to these communities, one young life at a time. Until next time, take care and may God bless you.